And you got to give me about 5 seconds to get the fight or flight response to process through my body before I can be effective here. So it turns out that I do a pretty good job of being a solvent and being a catalyst. So my intent is, in fact, to do that for this group to the extent that I can. And in answer to something that you brought up, which is very important, my commitment is to interact in good faith to the best of my ability. Right, so that's the front end. So starting off, the title was, I don't know, something about complexity. Probably the better title would be like, I don't know, shit is fucked up and stuff. The notion is that we've got a toolkit. It's a legacy toolkit. That toolkit sucks. It's broken. It doesn't work very well. We have to free ourselves of that toolkit because intuitively, whenever we come across a problem, we're going to reach into it and try to solve the problem with that toolkit. So we've got to figure out how to break our mind of that and then reconstitute a new toolkit. I'm very interested to find out what it looks like. So think different, think very different. Now, we've done this before. Fortunately, this is not the first time we've been to this rodeo. So I'll take the example of journalism. This is legacy journalism. Now, unfortunately, when you go to certain circumstances back in the 2000 time frame and everybody talked about reconstituting journalism, they thought that's what reconstituting journalism would look like, all right? Because you take your toolkit and you turn the crank on journalism. I take the New York Times, I put it on my computer, yay. But of course, in fact, we know that that's actually what journalism looks like in the 21st century. You boil it down to the base functions. Journalism is the sourcing, the qualification, and the dissemination of information into a network. That's what journalism is as a fundamental function. Is it the same category as science, although, of course, different in many ways. And then you begin to imagine, using your new toolkit, how do you create instruments to affect that particular function. Right? So that's the basic idea of what we have to do in general, with journalism being a great case in point. Okay, so what is governance, if we take that particular mode? All right? What are the core functions of this idea of governance? And it's trying to solve a couple of basic fundamental problems that seem to emerge in any kind of coordination network. The coordination problem, the prisoner's dilemma, collective decision-making, the tragedy of the commons, conflict management. Right? It may be bigger or smaller than that. The basic idea is it's some bucket of things that look like this. Now, the legacy toolkit has a pretty solid way of trying to solve these problems. The Leviathan. And what we currently live in, you might call the peak predator of Leviathan space. Right? They've been evolving against each other, competing in a wide variety of different ways, tending, unfortunately, on occasion to figure out how to systematically kill each other. And almost all of our toolkit is some modulation on Leviathan space. Call it sovereignty at the top, percolating down, hierarchy, bureaucracy, commodification, normalization, etc., etc. Okay? Now, what we have to do is we have to do something different. So these are the design constraints on any future instruments in the 21st century. This is by no means comprehensive. It's probably wrong, but the idea is to try to start gesturing in the right direction. So key ideas. Decentralization. If you're building something which requires a transcendent institution to be able to solve those governance problems, you're probably doing something wrong. You have to focus first and foremost on building something which is decentralized and uses imminent interlocutory feedback loops to enable the emergence of structure when and if necessary. Probably result using different kinds of currencies, and specifically some variation on the kinds of reputation currencies that human primate sensors are attuned to be able to react to effectively. Of course, as long as you're building them out of people. Right? We may be building them out of other kinds of objects, and I don't know, in that case, different receivers. Second, there's a phrase, architecture is politics. You need to take that actually seriously. A lot of the things that we currently do in institutional form, we will actually need to do in software form, for lots of good reasons. Software is scalable, software is portable, software is transparent by design. And I mean this very seriously. So if you're designing something, think first and foremost, how can I design this as software? Next, fluid and continuous versus siloed. We have this weird problem that people right now live in silos. You're a bureaucrat, you are at the IFTF, you are et cetera, et cetera. The future is going to be fluid. So figure out how you build something where people can partially attract to something and participate in it, and then jump out of it in different ways. Empowered individuals. If you're building a machine that works in spite of incompetent individuals, you're fucked, because you'll get incompetent individuals scalably across the system. It has to be fault-tolerant to incompetent individuals, but fundamentally oriented towards building capable individuals at the edge in all circumstances. Ad hoc and fine-grained. Polymorphic, solving problems with ad hoc solutions, building architectures as necessary and then bringing them down. And being receptive to the fact that you can have a very high degree of fine-grained precision and discernment to build them effectively. Right? Not gross-grained, not coarse-grained, but being able to be very nuanced. And last, transparent by design. right? Not just transparent in intention, but designed effectively and intelligently to be able to maintain transparency in spite of a wide variety of different feedback loops that would tend to cause us to not be transparent based on the way humans tend to interact. Done. Yeah.